I always thought I'd be the man who stayed, no matter how hard it got. But some betrayals cut so deep that the only thing left to do is walk away, without anger, without warning, without looking back. This isn't a story about revenge, it's a story about survival, silence, and the life I found when I chose to disappear. Welcome to Infidelity Truths. Before we dive into today's gripping story, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us create more thrilling stories just for you. Let's begin. I never thought I'd be the kind of man who disappears. I always believed in facing things head on, talking through problems, fixing what's broken. But some betrayals cut so deep, so raw, that silence becomes the only honest response. My name's Daniel. I'm 43. Quiet by nature, but steady, reliable. I married Emily 9 years ago. She was bold, the kind of woman who filled a room without saying a word. We were opposites in every way. She was light and energy. I was structure and discipline. She danced through life. I organized it. And maybe that's what pulled me in. She made me feel alive in ways I hadn't felt in years. We built a life together. Nothing extravagant, but solid. I worked operations for a logistics firm, good salary, long hours. Emily managed a boutique downtown until COVID hit. After that, she never really returned to full-time work. I didn't mind carrying the load. I saw it as part of loving someone, shouldering more when they can't. But about a year ago, things began to shift. She started dressing up more often, going out late, claiming she was meeting old friends. I trusted her. At least I wanted to. Then came the night I recognized the cologne. Sharp, expensive, familiar. My boss, Evan, wore it. Evan was flashy, young, divorced, loud in meetings, always bragging about investments and women. We weren't friends, just colleagues, but I'd been around him enough to know his scent like a second skin. That night, when Emily walked past me to drop her keys on the counter, I knew. I didn't say anything. Something inside me just buckled. I sat with it for a while, 2, maybe 3 weeks, then quietly asked if she'd seen Evan recently. She hesitated, smiled too long. No, of course not. Why would I? That was the first lie. And once someone lies, everything after feels crooked. I didn't press her, I just observed. Her texts became private. She started showering at odd hours, guarded her phone like it held state secrets. One morning, while she slept, I did something I never thought I would. I checked her messages. They weren't explicit, just fragments. Dinner plans, loved last night, emojis that felt too intimate for friendship, and a photo at a restaurant I'd once recommended to Evan. I confronted her. No anger, just tired honesty. She admitted it, said she was curious, that Evan gave her attention I hadn't lately. She swore it was only a couple dinners, that nothing happened, that she was sorry. I told her, if she ever saw him again, I was done. She nodded, cried a little, said she understood. It wasn't over. Last Thursday, I came home early. A client meeting was canceled. Her car was gone, axed without mention. I opened the shared location app we'd enabled years ago, almost without thinking. Downtown again, rooftop bar, Evan's favorite place. I waited, sat in silence, surrounded by 9 years of trust, photos, throw pillows, inside jokes. 3 hours later, she breezed in, humming, her hair curled, lipstick perfect. She didn't lie this time. Maybe she didn't care. She just kissed my cheek, said she was starving, and opened the fridge. That's when I made my decision. I didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't even tell her I knew. I just disconnected. That night, while she slept, I packed only what I needed: documents, clothes, laptop. I left our wedding album open on the dresser, a photo of us laughing, untouched by lies. By morning, I was gone. I shut off my phone, had my lawyer cancel the lease, rerouted my paycheck to a new account. Left everything else behind. She didn't deserve an explanation. She deserved silence, the kind that echoes. I disappeared to a coastal town I loved as a kid. Rented a small place with an ocean view. Picked up work helping a friend with his construction business. Manual work. Honest work. I sleep better now. It's been 8 months. I've never heard from her directly. Friends say she tried. Called my family. posted online about a missing husband and emotional breakdown. Spun it however she needed to. I never looked back. Some people think disappearing is weakness, but sometimes it's the strongest thing you can do. When you leave without a word, you take away their last chance to twist the story. She went behind my back with my boss, and this time I didn't beg. I didn't fight. I didn't ask why, I just left. And in that silence, I finally found myself. The first few months after I left felt like breathing underwater. Strange, muted, heavy. I wasn't used to the stillness. No buzzing phone, no polite small talk, no pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. Just the ocean, the hammer of waves against the shore, and the weight of my own thoughts. At first, I rented a small room above a garage owned by an older couple, Joe and Marlene. Joe ran a modest construction business, mostly local repairs and small builds, and he didn't ask questions when I showed up willing to work. I was grateful for that. Work was simple, clear, tangible. Unlike marriage, a broken beam or a cracked foundation can be fixed with your hands and a little effort. I liked that. I needed it. Nights were harder. There were nights I'd sit on the porch with a beer, staring at the dark water, replaying everything. The missed signs, the second chances I gave that never should have been extended. The man I had become, quiet, careful, worn down, and the man I was trying to become again. I kept expecting the anger to come, to explode out of me like everyone said it would. But it never did. Just a dull sadness. And then, slowly, less sadness. Around the fourth month, I started hiking the trails that ran along the cliffs. I told myself it was for exercise, but really it was to feel small again. To remind myself that heartbreak, betrayal, even marriage, they're just blips against the scale of the earth and sea. It helped. I made friends quietly without trying. Joe introduced me to his nephew, Chris, a wiry kid with a talent for woodworking. Chris dragged me into weekend projects, building a deck here, restoring an old boat there. It was the first time in years I laughed without feeling guilty. One evening, after a long day repairing a weather-beaten dock, we ended up at a local bar, not the kind with loud music or neon lights, the kind with cracked stools, faded photos on the walls, and bartenders who knew everyone's story but never pried. That's where I met Leah. She wasn't the kind of woman who demanded attention. She was quieter, steady, like the ocean at low tide. She worked at the local library, wore her hair in a loose braid, and had this laugh, low and real, that hit me harder than anything had in years. We didn't flirt, not at first. We talked about books, about places we wanted to see, about nothing and everything. It took me weeks to admit, even to myself, that I liked her. That maybe, just maybe, I wasn't completely broken after all. I still haven't told her everything. About Emily, about Evan, about how I left without a goodbye. But I will, when the time is right. Because what I'm building now, quietly, carefully, is something different. Not the desperate reaching for fireworks I had before. Something slower, stronger. Built, not on dreams, but on truths. Sometimes people ask if I regret disappearing. If I wonder what could have been if I'd stayed, fought harder, forgiven more. I don't. Some endings are the best thing that could ever happen to you. Not because they destroy you, but because they set you free. And I'm finally learning. Freedom isn't loud. It's quiet. Like the steady sound of the waves. Like starting over. Like breathing, finally without drowning. It was almost a year to the day when the letter came. No calls, no texts. Just a plain envelope tucked into my mailbox. No return address. Inside, a handwritten note on lined paper. Slanted, rushed handwriting I knew too well. Daniel, I know you don't owe me anything. I know you probably hate me, but I needed to say it. I'm sorry. For lying. For betraying you. For destroying something I didn't know how to protect. You deserved better than what I gave you. I hope you found peace. I hope you're happy. Even if it's not with me. Emily. I sat on the porch for a long time, letter resting on my knee, the salt air whipping around me. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. Honestly, I didn't feel much of anything at all. She wanted forgiveness, maybe. Or maybe she just needed to unburden herself. Either way, it didn't matter. Not anymore. That night, I told Leah everything. We sat in her kitchen, drinking cheap wine, her cat weaving between our ankles. I told her about the slow unraveling of a marriage I thought would last, about the nights I sat paralyzed in my own home, knowing but not wanting to know, about how I left without a word because words had lost their meaning. She didn't interrupt. She didn't flinch. She just listened. When I finished, she reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. "You're here now," she said simply. "You don't owe anyone your past." I realized then I didn't have to carry it anymore. I could set it down. I could let it stay where it belonged, behind me. A few weeks later, I drove back to the city. Not for Emily, not for closure, for myself. I visited places that used to define my life: the old apartment building, the park where Emily and I had picnicked, the downtown streets where I'd worked myself hollow for a company that would replace me the second I fell. It was strange. Everything was smaller than I remembered, duller, like walking through a dream you've outgrown. I didn't stay long, just long enough to prove to myself that I could. On the way out of town, I tossed Emily's letter into a public trash bin without ceremony, without anger. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't bitterness. It was release. I wasn't the man who left in the middle of the night anymore. I wasn't a ghost. I was alive. And for the first time in a long time, I was choosing myself. Back by the ocean, life went on. Leah and I built a garden in the backyard. Clumsy rows of tomatoes, peppers, wildflowers she said would sort themselves out. I learned to cook badly but enthusiastically. She taught me to dance in the living room on rainy days, barefoot and unself-conscious. I wasn't perfect. Some nights the memories still tugged at me, but they didn't own me anymore. Maybe that's what healing really is. Not forgetting, not pretending it didn't hurt, but learning how to carry the scars with grace, how to build something new, not in spite of the broken pieces, but because of them. I used to think disappearing was the end of my story, but it wasn't. It was just the first step toward coming back to life. And for the first time, standing there in the salty wind, Leah's laughter spilling out into the night, I finally understood. Some things are worth leaving behind. Some things are worth staying for. 2 years after I disappeared, I stood barefoot in the sand, watching the sun melt into the horizon. Next to me, Leah's hand found mine without a word. Easy, familiar, solid. We'd moved into a small cottage closer to town, one we painted ourselves, arguing over colors and laughing when we both ended up covered in streaks of blue and green. Life was simple: work, beach walks, shared meals, slow Sunday mornings with coffee and books spread out between us. I never thought I'd find this kind of peace. Not after everything, not after what I lost, or more truthfully, what I left behind. But it turns out, life has a way of growing around the broken places, like wildflowers cracking through the sidewalk. Some nights, Leah would catch me staring too long out the window, lost in thought. When she did, she never asked. She just pulled me back gently, a hand on my shoulder, a whispered, "Stay here," into the hollow of my neck. And I would, because here was enough, more than enough. Last month, my divorce from Emily was finalized, a formality at this point, more paperwork than emotion. No final conversations, no last meetings, just signatures on a page, severing a chapter already long closed. I didn't celebrate. I didn't mourn. I simply woke up the next morning, made coffee, and walked down to the shore with Leah, where the waves kept coming in, steady and certain. I don't know if Emily ever found what she was looking for. I hope she did. But her story isn't mine anymore. It hasn't been for a long time. My story is this: the man who disappeared didn't vanish. He changed. He learned that loving someone isn't about sacrificing yourself until there's nothing left. It's about choosing someone who chooses you back every day, without lies, without games. It's about finding peace, not in grand gestures, but in the quiet moments. Hands brushing against each other as you pass in the kitchen, the smell of rain on the deck, the feeling of waking up and knowing you're exactly where you're meant to be. It's about building something honest from the ground up. No shortcuts, no illusions. I disappeared once because I had to, but I stayed this time because I wanted to, because I found a life, a home where I didn't have to run anymore. And standing there on the shore, Leah's hand steady in mine, the last light slipping into the sea, I understood something I'd never understood before. Sometimes the best thing you can ever do is walk away. And sometimes the bravest thing you'll ever do is stay. And finally, I chose to stay. Thank you, my amazing subscribers. Wow, what a journey. If you've made it to the end of this story, I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Your support means everything to me. Every time you watch, like, and comment, you're helping keep this channel alive and growing. And trust me, the best is yet to come. I see all your comments. I feel your love, and I truly appreciate each and every one of you. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. Your thoughts and feedback inspire me to create even more powerful stories. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you never miss a new upload. More shocking twists, emotional journeys, and real life lessons are on the way, and I don't want you to miss a single one. Together, we're building an incredible community, and I'm so grateful to have you on this journey with me. Stay strong, stay inspired, and remember, sometimes life's greatest lessons come from the most unexpected moments. See you in the next story.